Absolutely partial pet author, Zhang Luo copywriting, Yu Ji is unresponsive and is a child who has been easily overlooked since childhood, but Shi Yi, who is gifted and intelligent, likes to take her with him. Pick her up from school, wait for her to go home, and use your pocket money to buy the most beautiful skirt for her. Childhood Shi Yi, if you want to be a princess, I will build a castle for you. Young Shi, let's go to the universe together, I count the stars, and you can count the moon if you are stupid. The year Yu Ji was abandoned, Shi Yi took her home and guarded her all summer. You are so cute and worthy of being loved. When she was 18, Shi Yi proposed. When she was 22, she became his wife. Kindergarten Yu Ziyi picked the role of a mother when the player was drinking, but she frightened her little friend. Yu Ziyi is so stupid, I don't want to be her stupid child. So she could only stand eagerly and watch other children play. When passing by, Shi Yi picked up the person. You are a little idiot, and you need to find a significant other to save your future child. Then, who should I call? For the sake of our neighbors, I allow you to grow up to become Mrs. Shi. The university. When Shi Yi was 18 years old, Yu Ziyi, a timid boy, gave him a valuable watch and a red love card as gifts. Shi Yi glanced at his watch, but took away the card, provoking a pair of charming peach eyes. Send me such an expensive thing, on a whim. The little girl's cheeks were flushed, and she stubbornly suffocated 5 words, it's deliberate. Zhang Luo, interview Mr. Shi, what do you think is the most proud thing in your life? Shi Yi, I have hurt my little girl since I was a child. Zhang Luo, speaking of people. Shi Yi, I will give myself a daughter-in-law. Content tag, Sweetheart Campus search keywords, protagonist, Yu Ziyi, Shi Yi supporting role, pick up files absolute heartbeat and lovely pet others, 1-sentence introduction, 18-year-old proposes, 22-year-old gets a red book idea, you are cute and worthy of being loved. You are the joy of my heart, and the only favorite. Inscription: the heat of September has not yet dissipated, and the air is so hot that it burns people's hearts even harder. The sky is getting late, the golden sunlight of the day is covered by the night, the lights outside the window are successively lit by people, and the inexhaustible rays of light gather together to illuminate the entire dark night sky. The girl in a sky blue short skirt walked out of the taxi, her warm and delicate pearly high-heeled sandals stepped on the ground, and the exposed insteps glowed with a white light under the light. Yu Ji gently closed the fluffy ball head, pulled the tulle-flying sleeves of the blue skirt, and subconsciously clenched the silent bell on his wrist. She looked at the KTV store name flashing in front of the colorful lights, took a awkward step forward, and then retracted her foot in an instant. There are still 4 hours and 8 minutes, which is the birthday of her favorite Zuma Shiyi 18 years old, adult. And she, ready to confess. As soon as Yu Ji fiddled with the white Bluetooth headset plugged in his right ear, the voice of the conversation was a little soft, I'm a little scared. What are you afraid of? I have known each other for so many years, don't be afraid, go straight. But, this time I really... Yu Ji hesitated. Just an hour ago, her friend Zhang Mir told her that she happened to meet Shiyi at KTV and saw him enter the private room with his friend, with a cake in his hand. After 12 o'clock tonight, tomorrow is Shiyi's 18-year-old adult day, such an important birthday, he celebrated with his friends in advance, but did not call her together? This is something that has never happened since we met. As an alumnus, Zhang Mir mixed in to inquire about information. He also took the opportunity to rub a piece of cake and hid in the corner to report the latest situation to her. It is very lively inside. That is your Zuma's birthday, and you are a surprise when you come. It's different this time. Others generously congratulated her on her birthday, but she was cautiously trying to confess to the person she liked. She stared down at the gift box bag she carried in her hand, and at a glance she could see the pure black square gift box slightly opened inside. This was the common Goffage gift she had prepared for Shiyi for 3 months. In addition to the practical gifts in the pure black gift box, there is also a red love card showing the girl's heart. Zhang Mir suddenly exclaimed, "It's amazing. I just discovered that one of the girls has been staring at Shi Yi and singing that sweet love song. I guess she has ideas for Shi Yi." "Ah, no, no. Vinegar is a good thing." The irritated Yu Ziyi felt something bang in her mind. When she recovered, she had already reached the door of the private room of 526. The girl's delicate and white hand pressed against the door, and the hand carrying the gift bag kept trembling. She raised her ears, and suddenly heard the singing inside switch the pitch. As soon as the melody came out, she heard the song, which was the prelude to the confession balloon. A nice female voice came out through the microphone, "I want to invite a guy present to sing this song with me." Then a male voice roared, "Today is Shi Yi's birthday, Shi Yi is here." The girl smiled joyfully, "Okay, then I want to invite Shi Yi to join me." "No." Yu Ji couldn't help it again and again, opening the door and entering. The first person to see is the young man sitting on the edge of the sofa. His eye-catching long legs stretched out naturally, his slender arms leaned against the cushion, and his 5 naturally curved fingers propped his side face in a lazy posture. Everyone in the private room was attracted by the girl who broke in suddenly and turned to look. The boy lifted his eyes lightly, his thick black eyelashes swept across his lower eyelids, and his amorous and charming peach eyes seemed to be born with electricity. Infantile when Yu Ziyi was born, he was thin and didn't even cry. It wasn't until the nurse hugged her and patted her twice before she opened her mouth and started crying, her voice still weak. Yu's mother Ruanqing did not have enough breast milk, but her life was not rich enough at that time, she could not afford other nutrition, and her children even had problems eating and drinking. Relatives around are discussing that this child may not be able to raise him. It's ugly, it's easy to die. After hearing this a lot, Ruanqing was also very worried. The opposite is the family opposite the courtyard, whose last name is Shi. The Shi family lived in abundance, although it was adjacent to their yard, the value of the house was completely different. There are several families living in their yard, and the 2-story roof is built on top of them, and the decoration is even simpler. However, Shi's family owns a single-family building with concrete floors covering the entire 3 floors. The location is wide and the lighting is also excellent. The Shi family added a fat boy 3 months ago. He was white and fat when he was born, and he will grow up after a short period of time. Everyone else loves him very much. When Zai couldn't eat enough, he cried at all times during the day and night, making neighbors knock on the door. Ruanqing was forced to have no choice but to knock on Shi's door cheeky with her thin daughter. Ningxia, the hostess of the Shi family, felt distressed the first time she saw Xiao Ziyi. The person who had just become a mother was emotional, and could not see the child suffering, and carefully held the milk doll in his arms, with pity in his eyes. "They are all mothers, so I told you quietly, giving her some food, it should be enough." Ningxia was well raised during her confinement period, and her son would swell up his milk when he could not finish eating. But also troublesome. Now sending a milk doll who lacked food can help her solve a small trouble. Ruanqing thanked him repeatedly and was grateful to Ningxia. Xiao Ziyi's food and clothing problem was solved, and his body gradually grew. When Xiaoai was 8 months old, he liked to crawl on the sofa. Zai, who was 3 months younger than him, couldn't even sit still. When Xiao Yi was 10 months old, he began to imitate the pronunciation of adults. At this time, Xiao Ziyi, who was 7 months old, would just follow him. Toy-year-old Shi Yi constantly learns the knowledge transmitted from the outside world. He walks the route and hears the words basically once, and he can remember and repeat it after he said it. But Zai was delayed in speech development, and could not speak, but occasionally cuckolded, puffed, pops out of his mouth, even his father could not even shout. Later, they learned that the first thing Zai yelled out was not Gluck, but brother. On Shi Yi's 3rd birthday, Shi's father bought a small cake and shared it with the 2 little guys. Shi Yi couldn't wait to take the cake apart and urged his father to light up the birthday candles before eating. When Zai saw the beautiful sparks, he stretched out his hand to catch the flames, and was burnt to the point of crying. In order to coax her, Shi's father picked the best cream cake on the cake into her bowl, but Zai didn't move a bite, staring at the tender and dripping strawberries on the edge of the cake. Sister likes to eat strawberries. Shi Yi took a fork to poke a half of a strawberry in the shape of a heart, and handed it directly to her mouth. Xiao Ziyi really liked it, and did not let go. This is my fork. Shi Yi of Zaiwai tried to reason with her. Then Xiao Ziyi was indifferent, and his eyes blinked twice like black grapes. Just when Shi's father and Shi's mother were about to change their son again. I saw the 3-year-old Shi Yi patiently feed her half of the strawberry in his hand, and touched Xiao Ziyi's head like an adult, with a helpless tone that must be pampered. I really can't use you. Shi mom? Yu's parents are busy with work, so they entrust Xiao Ziyi to Shi's family during the day. Ning Suya never found it bothersome, because Xiao Ziyi basically sat there obediently, and would not cry as long as he was full. Xiao Ziyi is usually not moving, and Shi who likes to step on the sofa to climb the wall is simply two extremes. Look at the obedient girl, and look at the trouble-making machine crawling all over the floor. Ning Suya, who has a very good temper, was so angry that her son jumped her feet. Shi Yi, if you throw the space sand on the ground again, I will confiscate all you have. Toy. At the age of 3.5, Shi Yi is already a villain, naughty and naughty. When he realizes that his mother is really angry, he admits mistakes faster than anyone else. Mom, I will never throw it away. After speaking, he ran to Zai and sat down next to him, temporarily becoming a good baby. When Ning Suya went to clean up the floor, Shi Yi began to pull Zai's soft hands. Sister, let's play together. Zai turned his head unresponsively and glanced at him, pursed his pink mouth, bowed his head and blew lightly on the back of his hand. It turned out that he accidentally scratched his hand when he was playing with a toy just now. He suddenly remembered that he had played in the space sand without washing his hands, and then shrank back, but accidentally knocked Xiao Ziyi's mouth. Xiao Ziyi burst into tears when her teeth were bumped. Ning Suya rushed over holding the clothes rack. Shi Yi, do you still dare to bully my sister? I did not do it on purpose. The little boy was more mischievous and made troubles one after another. Ning Suya, who was in anger, punished him to think about it. He walked all the way and picked up the toy ball on the ground. Then he started to chant, look at your toy ball littered. No meals are allowed today. At the age of 3.5 years, Shi Yi is already very smart and has a clear thinking about problems. He was right, and he stood in the corner without rebutting, holding the toy ball above his head, facing the wall, and stood fine. Grumbling with hunger, he secretly glanced back and saw his mother hugged Zai onto the chair. He turned back, his head drooping. Ning Suya served half a bowl of rice for the child, and put the vegetables he liked to eat in the children's bowl, and then went to the kitchen to serve the meal by herself. At this moment, the little boy who was kneeling on the chair moved. White and tender little hands were holding the bowl, while supporting the table with the other hand. He climbed directly down the chair. The spoon in the bowl was almost shaken out, and she grabbed the spoon in the palm of her hand again. Aiming in the direction where Shi Yi was, Xiao Ji swayed towards him holding the bowl. When she reached Shi Yi's side, she tried to hold her pink and white children's bowl high and handed it to him. The arm was too high to hold, and it shook slightly. Shi Yi scratched his head, why are you handing me your meal? He made a mistake and did not dare to take it. Zai puffed up pink cheeks, stubbornly holding the bowl, and said the first clear sentence with milky voice, brother, eat. The toy ball fell to the ground. A soft and sweet brother made Shi Yi stunned. The author has something to say. Open a new book. Follow the usual practice to pull the red envelope. Remember to leave a message. This is a very warm childhood sweetheart. One by one is really the one that Shi Yi prefers to dominate. When I was young, the rhythm would be faster. End of Article 1. I got a big villain after wearing the book. Gloomy and paranoid male protagonist x warm sunshine female protagonist. The female protagonist unswervingly saved the male lead. From school uniforms to wedding dresses, 1v1 mutual favors, healing is sweet. 2. Mrs. G's spoilers daily life autistic, milky, and sweet male protagonist x reborn little wife advance collection lovely pet white and beautiful little fairy x master. The female protagonist copies Buddhist scriptures every day, she is cold and arrogant and venomous, and she is stubborn and obedient in front of the male protagonist. All the behaviors that seem to leave and give up are her routines. That's right for the heroine. Open in June dressed into a BA total son's mother. Zhang Ying closed and opened his eyes and dressed directly as the mother of a 5-year-old. Looking at the colorful hair and fat body in the mirror, she almost fainted after turning her eyelids. The 5-year-old boy who has been abused all the year round shrank in the corner, terrified of her. Zhang Ying's heart was so painful that he scolded the original thousands of times in his heart, and started the road to petting the baby. Just when she was about to make money and raise her baby independently, the rumored boss turned up and said she wanted to be the father of money for her and her son. Reading guide: a wealthy female protagonist who can bend and stretch x a super affectionate and persistent overlord. The female protagonist thought that she was wearing someone else's body, but she actually returned to her own body, turning white and beautiful. The child is the crystallization of love, I can only remind here. In the second half of the year, the 2 children will be 4 years old, when parents discussed sending their son to kindergarten. Shi Yi is very happy because he can play with a group of friends every day. However, he did not forget his sister. Mom, do you also go to kindergarten? This. Ning Suya stopped talking. She asked the Yu family that the couple didn't seem to have any plans to send Xiao Ziyi to the kindergarten. They said that the child was young, and they only knew how to play and waste money. Although Ning Suya loves this girl very much, she doesn't get involved in other people's housework. The smart Shi Yi was not fooled, and insisted on asking the answer. Ning Suya was so entangled by her son that she replied smoothly, 11 now I don't know how to talk, and I'm not very stable in walking. Maybe I have to go to school later. When he got the answer, Shi Yi immediately retorted, she talks for a while, she just doesn't bother to talk. She walks for a while, but the speed is slower. Mom, you know some people are more taciturn, and walking slowly doesn't affect school. Ning Suya. I don't know where my son learned the idiom, but he used it quite right. When Shi Yi refused to give up, there was a thought in his mind, he has to find a way to let his sister go to school together. Shi Yi turned his head and ran back to his room, and found a toy fishing rod in the toy box. He had watched a video on his father's phone before, and he learned how to tie a toy fishing rod to his hat, and hung a bright strawberry fruit in front of him, and ran to find Xiao Ziyi. One by one. Shi Yi's voice was very loud. When he stood at the door and shouted, the people inside heard it. Someone in the next room was sitting at the door basking in the sun. When they saw Shi Yi looking for someone, they laughed at him, Shi Yi is here again, let the Yu family give your daughter to Yu Shijia. If it were other children, perhaps they would readily agree, but Shi Yi didn't like listening to these adults. One by one is not a cargo, how can it be given away casually? Ruan Qing, who was washing clothes in the house, heard the shouts and took her daughter out to let the 2 children play in the yard. When Shi Yi first conjured a strawberry, Xiao Ziyi's eyes lit up instantly. She reached for it, but Shi Yi deliberately avoided it. If you want to eat, take it yourself. After speaking, he put his hat on Xiao Ziyi's head, and the strawberry was hung in front of him. Xiao Ziyi's hands were not long enough to reach out, and she kept chasing forward, but she couldn't reach it anyway. Shi Yi followed by to cheer for her, yes, that's it, take 2 more steps. As soon as the voice fell, Zai gave a bang and kicked the stone to the ground. Wow wow, the cry shook the ground. Hearing the child's cry, Ruan Qing hurriedly ran out and hugged her daughter back. Shi Yi followed and apologized constantly, I'm sorry, auntie. Later, Ning Suya brought her son home with a hanger in her hand. Shi Yi held the palm of his beaten hand, today is another day he was punished and thought about it. Yu Kai was introduced by his brother in the factory and found a job in construction, but he was going to other provinces. Yu Kai returned home to discuss with his wife Ruan Qing. People over there said that women can also go, they can cook along with them, and do some scattered work. Ruan Qing hesitated at first, but Yu Kai always said how good the outside was when he returned home. The project that the big boss has contracted, I heard that it can make tens of thousands of dollars in a year, which is better than staying in this small place. In the end, Ruan Qing's heart moved, and the couple packed up and prepared to go out to make money. Then what should I do? They have never gone out, and it might be troublesome to bring a naive child with them. The couple worked together, and finally discussed with the Uncle Ruan family in the same hospital, and put the daughter in the uncle's house. By the way, the grandmother can take care of the children and pay back every month. Shi Yi walked around here, wandered there, and got a lot of news from the gossip neighbors around him. The neighbors said that the Yu family would go out to make a lot of money. While Yu Kai was off work, Shi Yi stayed outside the Yu's yard and stopped people. Uncle Yu, I want to talk to you. His tone was like an adult. Father Yu was in a good mood, and with the child, he really found a quiet place to sit with him. Uncle Yu, can you go to kindergarten one by one? One by one is still young, and now I go to school for fun. No, my mother took me to the kindergarten for 2 days. The teacher would teach reading, writing, singing, dancing, and other things. I learned a lot. That's because you are smart. The little guy shook his head, in an old-fashioned tone, read more to make a difference. Uncle Yu, do you want your daughter to lose at the starting line? Sue was caught by the little guy's aggressive method. Sue was thinking about the beauty of life outside, and Yu Kai finally agreed to give her daughter to kindergarten. In this way, Shi Yi got what he wanted and can go to school with his sister in September. On the first day of school, Shi Yi set an alarm clock for himself. It did not ring. In a hurry, Ning Suya took him directly into the car and asked Shifu to drive him to kindergarten to school. Shi Yi knelt and sat in the car, squinting from the window to look at the direction of the compound. I have to go to school one by one, shall we not be with her? Baby, we are late today, so naturally the parents will send her to school. Oh, okay. Shi Yi was looking forward to meeting in the kindergarten, but he didn't expect to see Yu Ziyi until he entered the class. Teacher, do you know where Yu Ziyi is? The kindergarten teacher was dumbfounded by this question. Children, is the kindergarten you mentioned about Yu Ziyi? Yes. She is my sister and will go to school with me today. We don't have this kid's name in our class. When Shi Yi heard it, he was not happy. He ran out of the classroom, looking for Yu Ziyi. It's just that he was caught by the little teacher in the class before he took 2 steps. Let go of me, I'm looking for my sister. The little teacher took him by the hand, trying to coax him back to the classroom, but Shi Yi yelled, help! With his roar, even the head of the garden was led over. When Shi Yi made such a fuss, he got his wish and found Yu Ziyi in the watermelon class next door. Ning Suya, who was guarding downstairs because she was worried about her son, was called up by the teacher. After hearing the reason, she squatted down and patiently reasoned with her son. Xiaoi, you are only in different classes. You can still play together. No, I will go to school with my sister, and my sister can't do without me. Shi Yi firmly held Yu Ziyi's hand, and refused to let go anyway. Everyone turned their heads to look at Yu Ziyi, and saw the girl standing beside the shameless boy silently, not crying or making trouble, and not calm enough. Everyone. Who can't do without who? Seeing that they were all paying attention to Yu Ziyi, Shi Yi held a small palm and pressed her on her soft hair. One by one, nod your head. The little girl's dark eyes rolled. Hearing her brother's instructions, she reacted slowly under everyone's gaze, clenched her pink fists, and said her little head solemnly, "With brother." After some tossing, Shi Yi got his wish and was in the same class as Yu Ji. The lunch in the kindergarten is based on nutrition, and the children are given different kinds of fruits every day, but there are not many. They were lucky, and they met strawberry distribution day soon after school started. The children sat on the bench, and the teacher handed out 2 of them one by one. Yu Ji was immediately overjoyed when he saw the fruit he liked, and he ate quickly every bite. Just as Shi Yi was about to deliver it to his mouth, he subconsciously looked at Yu Ziyi and saw that only half of her strawberries were left. Taking advantage of the teacher's carelessness, he quickly stuffed his own strawberries into her hands. The little girl looked at the remaining half of her left hand and the 2 extra ones on her right hand. After hesitating for a moment, she held the strawberry to Shi Yi's mouth. "Brother, eat." "Brother doesn't like to eat this, I will give it to you." The little girl nodded and was about to solve it. The little fat guy next door had already rushed to the teacher to file a complaint. "Teacher, Yu Ji once ate Shi's strawberry." The teacher, who was preparing them warm water, turned his head and saw that Yu Ji had 2 more coins in his hand. "One, every kid has 2, you can't grab Shi." Shi Yi immediately retorted, "I gave it to her myself." She didn't grab it. In desperation, the teacher gave him 2 more strawberries, and stared at him before leaving. Shi Yi made a face at her back. Soon after enrolling, Shi Yi found out that his perception of kindergarten was so wrong. "I thought I would have fun with a lot of kids, but I didn't realize until I entered the class that these kids were really troublesome. Some people can't eat by themselves, some have a constant nose, can't read words, can't count, and can't have fun together." The children kept talking. He covered his ears to no avail. Looking at Yu Ziyi next to her, she wrote and painted in her own notebook, and turned a deaf ear to outside sounds. The head teacher just took a glass of water back to the office and found that his office chair had been occupied. The little boy was sitting in her office chair, turning the Rubik's Cube in his hand. "Shi Yi, why did you run here? They are too noisy. I can't understand the book, and I can't do the problem. There are still people crying." At the end of his complaint, he seriously summarized, "There is no way to communicate with them." The head teacher was really helpless to this overly clever 4-year-old. "Then you don't care about your sister one by one?" He thought about it seriously, and climbed down from the chair. "Forget it, I'll go back to the classroom and look at her." The head teacher followed him and watched him enter the classroom with his own eyes. On the way, "I met the teacher of the class next door. That kid is Shi Yi? I heard that he is very smart and better than the children in the big class." "Yeah, that kid's brains turn fast, not like a 4-year-old at all. We are often used by him. We were sitting in my office just now, saying that we can't communicate with classmates. This. Dumbfounding. Haha, isn't it difficult to discipline?" "It's a bit, but he also has a weakness." "What?" "There is also a little girl named Yu Ziyi in the class. She doesn't know how to read or speak, and she doesn't speak much. But Shi Yi likes to circle her around. I know how to protect girls from such a young age." The little teacher joked between them, and didn't take it seriously. Until later, they saw the little girl sitting on the slide with their own eyes, while Shi Yi, who hated playing with naive children, stood by and guarded her carefully. The author has something to say. "Shi Yi, you don't understand, I am giving myself a daughter-in-law." Shi Yi. The kindergarten is over, and when the parents come to pick it up, the teacher will click the name of the student. Hearing the teacher's voice, Shi Yi immediately put the picture book in his hand back into the library cabinet, and walked out with a small school bag on his back. After meeting his mother, he started looking for Yu Ziyi's parents as usual. "Mom, have you seen Eleven's grandmother?" "No." Ning Suya shook her head. "Then let's wait." "Okay." Ning Suya touched her son's head and stayed patiently. But they waited and waited until all the children had left, but they still didn't wait for the Yu family. There were only a few teachers and Yu Ziyi left in the empty hall. The little girl stood by the door waiting eagerly, about to cry. Shi Yi quickly broke free of her mother's hand and ran over, one by one. "Where is your grandmother?" She shook her head in confusion, looking even more helpless. The phone in Yuji's family could not be reached, the parents could not be contacted, and the teacher had a headache. The little girl's crystal clear tears swept down her eyes, the tears wetted her long eyelashes, her black grape eyes were covered with a layer of mist. She shouted softly to her brother, "Brother, I can't go home once and for all." Up! Shi Yi stretched out his little arm to embrace his sister, gently patted her on the back like an adult, and comforted, "One by one, don't cry, I will bring home one by one." Ning Suya stepped forward to communicate with the teacher and brought the two children back together. When they personally sent Yu Ziyi back to Ruan's house, seeing that Yu Ziyi's uncle and aunt had just made a dinner, they didn't notice that the child hadn't returned home. Ning Suya couldn't help frowning. "One by one, no one picks up in the kindergarten, don't you know?" At this time, Uncle Ruan came to pick up the child, saying that he didn't know about it. After Yu Ziyi's parents went out to work, her grandmother took her to live in the original home. "Today, my grandmother had something to leave, and before she left, she told Aunt Ruan to pick up the child in the afternoon, but her aunt didn't care at all, let alone know that the child had not returned home." On the way home, Shi Yi turned his head and said to his mother, "Mom, when you come to pick me up in the future, let's take me home one by one." After grandmother came back, Ning Suya went to discuss with the old man in person, and later she brought the two children back together. The old man readily agreed. Yu Ziyi was born in the winter of December and a half. On his 5th birthday, the ground was covered with white snow, decorating the simple courtyard into a new world wrapped in silver. Ruan Qing, who was working outside, became pregnant again, and it was not convenient to toss back and forth. He just sent a new set of clothes to her daughter as a birthday present. Zai was so happy when he saw the new clothes, he couldn't wait to put on the red quilted jacket. Grandma cleverly tied her a pair of horn braids, cut 2 red ropes to tie her, and her round little face was flushed with red, so cute. Zai put on his new clothes, stepped on the slippery snow, and staggered to Shi's house in the opposite single-family building. On the clearing outside the Shi's courtyard, a boy was waving a toy shovel in his hand, shoveling snow. As soon as Zai ran towards him, his feet slipped, and he sat directly on the snow. Both children were shocked. Shi Yi quickly threw the shovel to help her up. The strong little girl didn't feel any pain at all. Instead, she happily pulled her clothes around, stinkingly around in a circle. Brother, look, Mom gives me new clothes bought." Shi Yi looked carefully at her new dress, touched her chin, and fell into deep thought. How to say? It's fat to a ball. But he knew that girls could not be said to be fat, so he praised it euphemistically, cute. The admired little girl happily covered her cheek, and pressed her pink cherry lips. Shi Yi held a toy shovel and kept shoveling snow. Zai followed all the way, leaving messy little footprints in the snow. The snow is easy to slip, and her walking pace is not as steady as ever, and she can stretch a long distance in a few steps. Shi Yi walked and waited, and finally squatted on the side of the road and waved to her. She shook her small hand and tried to speed up and rushed over. Unexpectedly, she couldn't stop the car and fell into the snow. She smashed the white snow covered with haystacks to a large area. Zai turned his head and looked at him blankly, holding 2 straw with dead branches between his fingers. Seeing her silly appearance, Shi Yuxiao bent over. Just like you, what can you do when you grow up? Zai threw a handful of dead grass branches forward, blushing, and replied hesitantly, Long, grown up, go beg for food. Hey, it's really worthless. Shi Yi sighed, squatted in front of her, couldn't help but stretched out her hand, squeezed her soft cheek. Forget it, I will try to make more money in the future. Hello. Zai puffed up his cheeks, and his bright eyes flickered, as if he could speak. Time flies, and I look forward to it, and finally waited until the day of kindergarten graduation. The teachers gave each child a handmade gift, and most of the children's parents arrived on time to celebrate their graduation. My parents are here. My father is busy making big money and can't come, but my mother is here. When someone mentions it, other children will follow suit, creating a kind of comparison psychology invisibly. In addition to the comparison, some people pointed out the difference between a certain child. One by one parents did not come. Shi Yi, who was holding elementary school textbooks for self-study, finally said, "Stupid, every adult has his own job, and we are not parents who graduated from kindergarten. But mom, dad, and children are a family. One belongs to my house." Shi Yi answered without hesitation. The little boy retorted, "Lie, one by one is not your sister." Someone immediately agreed, "Yes, only mom, dad and baby are considered a family." Shi Yi closed the book, looked at everyone and asked, "Then do you know why mom and dad are together?" "I don't know." The children shook their heads frankly. He explained, "Because father and mother are married, they are a family." "Oh," the children said in unison. "Shi Yi, you are so smart. Then you and Yi are a family, are you married too?" Puff. The precocious Shi Yi shook his head helplessly, too lazy to explain to these ignorant children. He sat upright and just opened the book. A small head suddenly appeared next to him. "Brother, are we married?" Shi Yi answered earnestly, "One by one, children cannot get married." "Then when can we get married?" "Of course it's after growing up." Zai nodded, not sure if he understood it. Just after the summer vacation, Shi Yi went to visit his grandparents with his mother. He has not returned yet. Xiao Ziyi sat in the yard bored, and heard other children playing outside. She stepped away from her short legs and walked out slowly. It is rare for children in different yards to play together, with different ages and different personalities. Wang Xiyuan, who was in the second grade of elementary school, was a girl who came here during the summer vacation. Her beautiful skirt became the envy of the children in the yard. Both little boys and girls liked to play with her. Wang Xiyuan stood proudly on the low bench, like a proud peacock. She looked from left to right and pointed at Yu Ziyi standing by the courtyard gate as soon as she stretched out her hand, and asked loudly, "Hey, what are you doing hiding behind?" Xiao Ziyi took 2 steps forward bravely, and asked in a low voice, "Me, can I play with you?" As soon as he asked, the fat little boy in the middle stood up, "Don't play with Yuji, she is the most stupid playing games." Wang Xiyuan didn't believe it, so he pulled her over. They discussed playing the game of pretending to be housewine. Wang Xiyuan wanted to be an adult and a mother, because she felt that all children must listen to their mothers. The boys are vying to be fathers and want everyone to be obedient. There was no result of the discussion, so a lottery was simply adopted. Everyone rushed to choose, leaving the last paper ball to Yu Ziyi. Everyone received their own role identities, and they were all curious to be able to direct the children's mother and dad. Wang Xiyuan didn't get the role he wanted, so he wasn't very happy. "You all turn the note over, let me see." Yu Ji moved slowly, and the last one was shown. Everyone sees that this person who least knows how to play games has actually got such a good role. Fatty laughed, "Yu Ziyi actually wants to be a mother. She is so stupid and knows nothing." The little boy who was selected for the role of a child burst into tears when he heard that. "As soon as Yu Ji is so stupid, I don't want to be her stupid child." Wang Xiyuan, who coveted this role, stood forward and snatched the identity of the note in Yu Ji's hand. "Everyone is not playing with you, you should go to the side." Sure enough, the little friend still didn't want to take her to play. The ostracized little girl could only stand there blankly, watching other people happily starting to prepare for the game. Xiao Ziyi squatted boredly on the ground, his white tender hands pulled up green grasses. "Why isn't my brother coming back?" As soon as the voice fell, a black shadow swept down before his eyes. When Zai looked up, his eyes suddenly showed joy. "Brother!" Shi Yi bent down and grabbed her thin arm, picked up the person and stood up. "What are you doing here alone? They said I was too stupid to let me play together." Shi Yi held her hand firmly and led her to the people, who said she was stupid just now. "Stand up for me." Shi Yi is an existence they dare not provoke, because Shi Yi can make elementary school questions in kindergarten, especially to make adults happy. Parents let their children learn from Shi Yi. If they deny it, they might be scolded. So Xiao Pang was confessed. Xiao Pang was also afraid, and confessed the other one. It was the stupid kid who said he didn't want to be Yu Chai. From the words of other people, Shi Yi understood what happened, pointing to Yu Ji and saying to everyone, "Apologize to her." "Sorry. Sorry." The two said in unison. Although the friends apologized to her, Yu Ziyi was still sad. On the way home with Shi, she asked stupidly, "Brother, am I really stupid? Will I be stupid as a child?" "You are a fool, and you need to find a partner with a high IQ to save your future child." "Then, who should I call? For the sake of our neighbors, I allow you to grow up to become Mrs. Shi." The author has something to say. Shi Yi didn't know what responsibility he was supposed to shoulder when he said these things, but only knew some superficial knowledge. "My little cousin from the kindergarten came back every day and said his girlfriend's name to his family was different, to laugh or cry. 1. I grow up to beg for food." "Shi Yi, my wife is really promising." Shi Yi left the childish place of the kindergarten as he wished, only to find that the first-grade children were still the same in his eyes. As he grows older, his knowledge also increases. Shi Yi felt helpless about this. The only thing to be thankful for was that his family was still there. Shi Yi is relatively tall, and the teacher arranges him to sit in the back, which means he has to separate from Yu Ziyi. Shi Yi refused, grabbed Yu Ziyi and refused to let go, and wanted to play the kindergarten shameless set. But the teacher didn't agree. They were still 4 rows apart in the end. Yu Ziyi just came to an unfamiliar environment and was not as keen on making new friends as other children. She felt a little uneasy. She looked back frequently during get out of class and ran directly to Shi's seat after class. Although Shi Yi is angry and cannot be at the same table, he will not scare Yu Ziyi, but patiently coax her, "Don't be afraid, my brother will guard you behind." She trusted Shi Yi extremely and gradually adapted to the new class. Most of the classmates don't know each other, and they tend to be active and good-looking when playing games. "Shi Yi, let's play hide-and-seek." A girl with a mushroom head ran over and enthusiastically invited him. Shi Yi calmly turned a page of the textbook in his hand, and directly refused, "Don't play." He didn't want to play such a naive game. But as soon as she turned her head, the mushroom head girl invited Yu Ziyi, one by one, "Let's play hide-and-seek together." The children in the yard did not want to take her to play games. Now that someone invited her, she was naturally very happy. She subconsciously ran to Shi Yi's side and grabbed his sleeve. Shi Yi put down the book. "What are you doing?" "Brother, let's go play hide-and-seek." Shi Yi glanced over the mushroom head girl, and immediately understood the reason. "Go." He knew that Yu Ji wanted to play games with everyone. Yu Ziyi and his friends went to the small playground, but Shi Yi did not participate. When the lunch break was about to end, the mushroom head girl and several other friends returned to the classroom happily, and the laughter caught Shi Yi's attention. He looked at the door of the classroom, and Yu Ziyi was the only one missing from the group. Shi Yi immediately put down his textbook and rushed over. "What about one by one?" When he asked, everyone looked around and realized that there was no one. "No, I don't know." There was a weak voice from the crowd, and Shi Yi immediately changed his face. He couldn't find Yu Ziyi in the playground. He was sweating and ran into the office panting, only to find the little girl he was looking for sitting here. The little girl was sitting on the cool sofa in the office with a thin blanket on her body, her dark eyes rolling and sitting there quietly. When Shi Yi was about to walk over, he was stopped by the teacher. "Little Shi Yi, you can't go there now." Shi Yi looked back and saw the teacher holding a hair dryer blowing on the little clothes in his hand. "That is Yu Ziyi's clothes?" he asked anxiously. "What happened to one by one?" The teacher was holding the hair dryer in his hand, and couldn't hear it clearly. As soon as Yu Ji saw Shi Yi, he stretched out his two small hands holding the thin blanket, and yelled, "Brother!" For a while, Shi Yi didn't care about the teacher's instructions, and ran to the sofa. The teacher quickly turned off the hair dryer in his hand, and lifted up the thin blanket to wrap Yu Ziyi's body. "Children, don't move around." Although the teacher's voice was gentle, Yu Ziyi cared more about Shi Yi. Seeing Shi Yi being blocked behind, she was a little sad, and stretched out her two white and tender arms. "I want brother." The teacher was about to appease. Shi Yi thought to himself, "Teacher, I see, did you take off your clothes one by one?" Without the teacher's answer, he patted his chest seriously. "I won't look at it, I will take care of them one by one." Teacher. This child is quite precocious. It was only through Yu Ziyi and the teacher's explanation that when he was playing hide and seek with his friends, Yu Ziyi went to the toilet and got wet with the naughty child, and the teacher just passed by. When Yu Ji went to find her little partner, she found that those people had disappeared. The teacher took her to the office and took her clothes off and dried them. After this incident, Shi Yi never let her go alone to play with those people, and didn't even know where she made a bell and put it in her hand. "I can find it where you go." When she moved her arm, the crisp bell rang. He could hear her as long as she was in the classroom. But this is definitely not a long-term solution. It's okay for Yu Ji to stay still. When he moves, the sound of the bell will noisy others. No way, Shi Yi could only take off the bell. When he took the bell away, Yu Ziyi was still a little unhappy, and his small mouth was pitiful. Shi Yi couldn't bear the look in her eyes, and went home to find his parents to find a way, and finally bought a new bell that didn't make a sound and put it on again. In the 3rd grade, the teacher talked about composition and asked the children to talk about their dreams. Children's dreams are wild and unconstrained. What aliens, Ultraman, and superpowers? Some will say that they want to be a teacher or a doctor when they grow up. They are usually roles they often hear about. Everyone was laughing when they talked about their dreams, and Shi Yi was also laughing, but his smile was different from others. When the teacher asks, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" the picture that emerged in his mind was Yu Ziyi wearing a red cotton-padded jacket sitting on the snow, stupidly saying, "Long, grow up and beg for food." Other little girls are vying to be princesses in fairy tales, but his little girl has different brain circuits, so she wants to beg for food? Shi Yi just heard Yu Ziyi's desk mate asking her in the aisle, one by one, "What dream did you write?" He chuckled lightly and rushed to answer, "She wants to beg for food." Yu Ji blushed, "Nothing." Shi Yi refused to let her go. "As long as you say something that you want to be a princess, I will think you are promising." Surprisingly, Yu Ji shook his head and said, "Yi Yi is not a princess." "Hey? Why not? The princess is the one who lives in the castle." Shi Yi squeezed her apple-like cheeks. "If you want to be a princess, I will build a castle for you." The inadvertent promise was remembered by the little girl for a long, long time. Jingle bell. As soon as the bell rang at the end of 5 classes, the students in the class began to restless. The teacher yelled, "Get out of class off," and almost everyone rushed downstairs. The 6th grade classroom was on the 4th floor, and Shi Yi was gone in a blink of an eye, and Yu Ziyi waited for the others to finish before slowly holding a pink food box to the cafeteria to have a meal. In the old place of the canteen sat a chic boy. The 11-year-old Shi Yi has an outstanding appearance. He is dressed in a blue and white down jacket, his feet are leaning under the long table, his fingers are on the blue lunch box in his left hand, and he taps gently. It didn't take long for a little girl with a double ponytail to hold a pink food box and sit directly opposite Shi Yi. At this time, Shi Yi took back her food box. As soon as Yu Ji stared at him, he opened the food box, looked at the full-flavored spicy chicken in the opposite lunch box, and kept swallowing. "Want to eat?" Shi Yi asked knowingly. She puffed her cheeks and nodded. "Shi Yi, no." The little girl covered her mouth, pitifully picked up the stir-fried cabbage in her food box, opened her mouth and took a bite. "It hurts." "Hey, who told you to steal snacks and not drink water?" Shi Yi glanced at her and deliberately picked up the spicy meat in front of her and put it into his mouth. Yu Ji was extremely wronged. "A few days ago, I greeted my mouth and ate something with heavy taste, but I caught fire and it hurts even after eating." On the weekend, Shi Yi was forcibly dragged by Ning Suya to go shopping. "Son, I think you have grown up recently and you have to buy new clothes." Shi Yi not only develops fast IQ, but also grows quickly. He is only 11 years old and has a height of 160. Ning Suya took her son around the mall, bought 2 new clothes, and took him to the supermarket to buy other things. Shi Yudong looked west, and caught the water glass on the container. The latest drinking cup has a unique design. There is a swan on the top of the cup. According to the salesperson, the decorative liquid in the swan will flow with it when drinking water. Shi Yi reached out and took 2, one pink and one blue. "Mom, I want to buy this cup." "Okay. Don't you have it at home? Why do you buy so much? This good looking." "Yo. Haven't noticed yet, her son is so girlish." On Monday, a new pink water cup appeared on Yu Ziyi's desk. It looked very cute and she couldn't put it down. Yu Ziyi was very happy and went to the back row to express his gratitude. "No thanks." He pointed to the cup and slowly gave an irresistible order, "I will get you a glass of water in the morning, noon, and afternoon, and I must drink it up." The bright smile on the little girl's face instantly froze. "Brother, I can't finish drinking." "If you can't finish drinking, I will drink it myself." The little girl fled back to her seat as if holding the swan cup with oil. She looked back from time to time, and when she lowered her head, she quietly opened the water glass and handed it out the window. The same table suddenly said, one by one, "What are you doing?" Yu Ji reacted slowly and was caught by Shi Yi. The head teacher walked into the classroom in advance, and saw the monitor Shi Yi holding a pink cup to feed Yu Ziyi personally, while the little girl's face was flushed, as if shy. Knowing that these 2 children are in a good relationship, they are still on the public show? "Shi Yi! What are you doing? You fell in love at a young age?" After class, the teacher took the 2 into the office. As the monitor, Shi Yi is already familiar with the office, and even went through all the procedures by himself. "Teacher, I don't have a puppy love with Yi. If you don't believe it, you can ask your classmates to find out about the situation in private. Of course, I have written a 1,000 word review to calm you down." He handed over the 1,000 word review without delay, and voluntarily admitted, "You are right. It was written during class just now. But don't worry, I have memorized the text I learned in the last class. If you want to check it, I can recite it on the spot. Finally, do you need me to help you contact the parents?" The head teacher has already started pinching people. On the way home from school, Yu Ji clicked and counted. Seeing her walking slowly with her head down, she almost hit the pole in front. Shi Yi quickly stepped forward, blocking her forehead with her palm. "Look at the way. What are you whispering? Don't cry if you hit it for a while." He gave the little girl a lesson fiercely. Yu Ji was not afraid at all, raised his small face and replied, "Brother, my birthday is coming soon." He hummed and said the time without hesitation, "There are 5 days left." The little girl opened her eyes wide, revealing her admiration. "Brother is amazing." Stupid. He even prepared gifts in advance, and the time does not need to be calculated. Before arriving home, Shi Yi reached out and grabbed her ponytail. The homework assigned by the math teacher today is a bit difficult. If you can't, come to me and I will teach you. She tilted her head. Is today's math problem difficult? Okay. Then I'll go directly to your home to do my homework. She happily made a decision. Brother, wait a minute, I'll go back and talk to grandma. As soon as Yu Ji stepped into the courtyard, she realized that today was different. She walked to the house in doubt and saw that the door was open and there were new appliances in the house. Grandma. The door was open, but no one responded to her. She retired from her home and turned to the uncle's house next door, where she heard lively conversations inside. Yu Ziyi quietly poked his head out of the door and saw a few strange and familiar people. Open your eyes incredibly. Suddenly a 5 or 6-year-old girl ran out following the toy car. Yu Ji jumped a step, and everyone inside found her. One by one. Ruanqing stood up and quickly walked towards her daughter outside the door. Yu Ji opened his mouth and called out an unfamiliar voice, Mom. When Yu Ji was 3.5 years old, his father Yu Kai and his mother Ruanqing went out to work. It has been more than 7 years, and only 2 times in the middle. For Yu Ziyi, they are really familiar and strange people. These two are close relatives who brought her to the world. Even though they have rarely seen each other for so many years, she still longs for the love of her parents. Shi Yi waited at the door for a while and walked in. He saw the scene of the mother and daughter hugging in front of Uncle Ruan's door from a distance, and he stood quietly on the spot without going up to bother. One by one, come and take a look at the gifts Mom bought you. Ruanqing happily took her eldest daughter home to open the gifts. Unexpectedly Yu Ji withdrew her hand. My brother is waiting for me outside, I'm going to talk to my brother first. Brother. Ruanqing didn't respond at first hearing her address. As soon as Yu Ji didn't get to the point of her mother's doubts, he nodded at her and ran out. Unexpectedly, he was caught in a person's arms and saw Shi Yi when he raised his head. Brother. My parents are back. Her excited tone and joyful eyes made no secret of her. Shi Yi touched her head, I saw it. Go back and accompany Mom and Dad. Come back when you have time. If you are not free, I will teach you at school tomorrow. She nodded joyfully. Shi Yi can fully understand her feelings at the moment. After all, children want to be loved by their parents. The Yu family made some money from working outside these years, and this time they returned home to replace some new furniture, and added a refrigerator and washing machine. Ruanqing was holding her 5-year-old daughter in one hand, and Yu Ziyi only knew that the little girl with mushroom head and bangs and short hair was her younger sister, Yu Xinyan. The last time I saw my sister was 3 years ago, when she was only 2 years old, and she was very different from her current appearance, so she didn't recognize it at first. Ruanqing happily took out all the gifts, including winter quilted jackets, spring jackets, and summer skirts. One by one, my mother bought these for you. Do you like it? Like. As long as it is a gift from her mother, she likes it. Yu Xinyan pulled out a box of fruit candy from her bag and asked her mother to tear it for her to eat. Ruanqing put away the whole box without giving it to her. This is candy for my sister, you can't eat it. Yu Xinyan, who couldn't eat the candy, was very unhappy and jumped up to grab it. Ruanqing didn't give it, but handed the fruit candy to Yu Ziyi, one by one. This is imported fruit candy, which my mother specially picked for you. There are many flavors. As soon as Yu Ji accepted the candy, he smiled and curled his mouth. Seeing that the candy had reached her sister, Yu Xinyan immediately changed her target. Sister, give me a candy. She was soft-hearted and was about to take it from the box, but was stopped by Ruanqing. It's okay, there are a lot of sweets here, which can be shared with my sister. She is considerate and generous. But I heard Ruanqing answer, Yan is about to change her teeth, she can't eat candy. Yu Xinyan liked to eat sweets when she was a child. Ruanqing has been controlling her. Now she has started to replace her teeth when she was less than 6 years old. She was a little worried and directly prohibited her little daughter from eating sweets. Take it well, don't steal it for my sister. Ruanqing warned carefully. Yu Ji looked down at the candy in his hand, the smile on his face gradually faded. Mom and Dad brought her clothes, snacks, and some stationery for study. She took all the clothes back to the room, arranged and hung them on the shelf, and put the stationery away. Finally, looking at the can of candies, she convinced herself, Mom and Dad gave so many gifts one by one, and you have to thank them one by one. The adults arranged a table for reunion dinner at their uncle's house, and they all went to work at the uncle's house. Yu Ji finished his simple homework and was called to dinner. Although her uncle's house is next door these years, she rarely comes here, basically eating alone with her grandmother, or Shi will leave her at Shi's house. The uncle's family was polite to them because of the gift they received, and it really looked like a family who loved each other. Yu Zi is a little cautious, because the excitement here is a bit incompatible with her. The 5-year-old sister still doesn't like to eat. She has a toy in her hand, and only takes 2 bites if Ruanqing feeds her. Yu Zi occasionally looked up at his mother chasing his sister to feed, then silently lowered his head. Father Yu and Uncle Ruan were drinking, and occasionally caught a glimpse of the eldest daughter who only ate meals without picking up vegetables, and directly put a large piece of meat into her bowl, one by one, eat more meat, see you are so thin. Looking at the extra meat in the bowl, Yu Ji was shocked. The meat is half fat and half thin, and stir-fried with chili. She hasn't finished her mouth yet, so she can't eat spicy food at all. Fortunately, a grandmother sat next to help her out, took the meat away, and said, one by one recently got hot, don't eat spicy food. Father Yu nodded, then you eat more vegetables. She answered in a low voice, okay. In the end, she only ate a small bowl of white rice and drank some soup. The adults were slow to drink, chat, and eat. She couldn't wait, and went back alone. Back in the room, she packed 2 new beautiful signature pens in her school bag. Before leaving, she grabbed a handful of fruit candy and stuffed it into her pocket, carrying a small school bag to Shi's house. Shi Yi finished his homework at school and started playing game consoles when he returned home. Today, Ning Suya had something to delay going home a bit late, and only started cooking now. When Yu Ji knocked on the door, Shi Yi didn't even hear it. Ning Suya opened the door. Here comes one by one. I have some math questions I want to ask my brother. Brother is in the room. Go in and find him. She is very familiar with Shi's family, and entering Shi's room is the same as entering her own room. When pushing the door in, Shi Yi was still fighting fiercely in the game. Yu Ji stood silently behind him, waited for him to finish his fight before speaking, and shouted, Brother! Shi Yi, who was pressing her shoulders, turned her head abruptly and looked at her in surprise, Why are you here? Yu Ji pulled down his school bag and took out the math problem book from it. There were 2 chairs in front of the desk. They found a familiar position with the question book in the middle. Your parents are back, don't you need to stay with them at home? They're at Uncle's house, drinking. Oh. Parents drinking and chatting are a long process, he understands. What about your little sister? You don't play with her either. Sister. I don't know how to play with her. My sister has many toys, but she has never played with them. When she finished her meal, her mother chased her sister to feed, and couldn't play together. Oh, when Shi Yi heard this, his clever eyes rolled, therefore, there is no common topic at different ages. You can play together if you see the 2 of us. She's flicker, professional brainwashing. But the little girl felt reasonable and nodded in agreement, I like to play with my brother. Shi Yi touched the girl's head, feeling very pleased. Yu Ziyi suddenly remembered something and took out 2 new pens from his school bag and put them on the table. Mom bought me a box of pens. I chose 2 colors you like and gave them to you. Then, she took a handful of candies from her pocket and handed it to him. There are candies. These two things are the only gifts she can give, because clothes cannot be given, and snacks are not needed. Before Shi had time to be happy with the gift of the 2 pens, she was drew attention by the candy in her hand, but not because she liked to eat. Yu Ziyi, did I tell you that you can't eat candies now? He took away all the candies without leaving her. Putting her fingers on her chin, he ordered, open your mouth. She opened her mouth obediently. Shi checked her teeth carefully. She was just the age of the second pair of fangs, so she couldn't be careless. He gave a serious education. You are not allowed to eat candy before you finish changing your teeth, do you know? Before Yu Ziyi expressed his opinion, Ning Suya knocked on the door suddenly and came in. Have you eaten all one by one? Auntie will give you extra food. Shi rushed to answer, Mom, remember not to add spiciness to the dishes in a while, one by one hasn't gotten better recently. Ning Suya smiled and waved the spatula in her hand, okay, just worry about you. You've been talking in my ear for a few days, don't I know? Ning Suya turned and went to the kitchen. Shi retracted his gaze and was about to continue to ask her, but found that the little girl's tears were falling like golden beans. Shi suddenly panicked, one by one, I'm not aggressive with you, don't cry. Yu Ji shook her head. She was crying because Shi was forbidden to eat candy. The smart Shi only panicked when she shed tears, awkwardly wiped her tears away, and coaxed while wiping, don't cry, when your teeth grow better, brother will buy you candy. The Yu family said they could stay for half a month during this vacation. Hearing this news, the elderly who missed their children and the children who missed their parents were very happy. Yu Ziyi put on the new clothes her mother brought back to her and used new stationery at school. When the same table saw her stationery box, she exclaimed beautifully, one by one, this stationery box looks so good, where did you buy it? I want it too. Mum bought it from another place. Okay. Yu Ziyi's tablemate now is the little girl with mushroom head back then. She has a very cute name Xiaolazi. Alias, Xiaolazi. Xiaolazi reached into the desk, touched it a few times, and finally took out a transparent bag. I remember tomorrow is your birthday, but if you don't come to school on Saturday, I will give you a gift first. Now, I wish you a happy birthday in advance. Thank Jojo. They had been in the same class for 6 years and had a good time at ordinary times. Xiaolazi gave her a small gift when she first learned about her birthday, and she naturally wanted to pay it back. Come and go, every birthday interactive gift, they are ordinary small objects, but full of heart. When returning home from school, Shi asked how she planned to celebrate her birthday tomorrow. Your parents are back this year, they are going to celebrate your birthday, right? Yes, Mom and Dad also said they would buy me a birthday cake. Oh! I don't need to buy it this year. When Yu Ji was a child, her grandmother would not buy her a cake for her birthday. It's not that it's bad for her, but the old people have had too many hard days and feel that it is not worthwhile to buy cakes, and would rather buy more chicken, duck, and fish for the children. But the children all think that for a birthday is to eat cake, and it is not a birthday if you don't eat cake. So Shi took out his pocket money to buy small cakes for her. Yu Ziyi is full of joy now, because her parents promised to buy her a big cake tomorrow, which can be shared among many people. The more I think about it, the more I look forward to it, grabbing Shi's palm with both hands, and sincerely inviting, brother, then you will come to my house to eat cake with Aunt Ning and Uncle. Okay, but they still have to work during the day and have to wait until after get off work. No problem. Mom and Dad explained that they would go to the city to buy delicious food during the day and have dinner at night. This is the first birthday that her parents have personally accompanied her in 7 years. Yu Ziyi was very happy and got up early. At breakfast, she heard her parents discuss what to buy in the city for a while. She pricked her ears, and smiled when she heard her mother's reminder to buy cakes and gifts one by one. When Yu Kai and Ruanqing went out, Yu Xinyan clamored to be with her parents, and they had to bring this clingy little guy. Yu Ji has a lot of homework. After her parents go out, she stays at home to catch up. Grandma came in with the egg and rolled around her, eating this egg. There is no disease, no disaster, and peace. This is a habit handed down by the older generations. Every birthday, Grandma would do this, saying it would bring blessings. Yu Ziyi likes this habit of celebration, because it represents her birthday wishes. She was relatively slow in learning, and she was also very slow in doing questions. It was already afternoon when she finished her homework. She went to the door and turned around, never waiting for her parents to return. When will you come back? I really want to know when my parents will be able to take the cake home. But she waited, and when it was getting dark, she only waited for a call. Mom, Yunyan fell ill suddenly. We are in the hospital. You can take them one by one to finish the meal first. Don't wait for us. The parents on the other side of the phone told her grandmother like this. Is the kid okay? Acute gastroenteritis, the doctor has prescribed the medicine, don't worry. They called and Yu Ziyi heard them all. She still asked, what's wrong with my sister? Grandma touched her head and sighed, my sister is sick, they may come back later, are you hungry? Grandma will cook for you first. Seeing her grandmother entering the kitchen from the back, she felt bitter and couldn't tell the feeling. It was getting dark early in winter, and the couple had already returned home from get-off work. Seeing Xiai at home alone, Ning Suya put down her bag and walked towards him. Today is the 11th birthday, why are you alone at home? I don't know, the parents of 11 don't seem to have come back. He secretly went to the yard opposite and looked twice. He didn't hear any sound, and he didn't feel embarrassed to move forward. As soon as the voice fell, a small head popped out of the door before it could be closed. When I first walked in, my father found her, one by one, come in. Yuji pursed his lips, walked 2 steps into the room, looked at the 3 of them, and immediately lowered his head to apologize. Uncles and aunts, brothers, I'm sorry, my parents have not come back, so I can't invite you to eat cakes. She broke her promise to everyone and felt very sorry. Xi's parents didn't expect the little girl's appearance to apologize to them, and immediately laughed, I think it's a big deal. Where are your parents? They went shopping in the city. That must have bought a lot of things for Yi, so I will be back later. They thought the child was anxious for his birthday, so they coaxed her with nice words. Yu Ji dropped his head, neither agreed nor refuted. When Mom and Dad knew her temperament, the 2 went into the kitchen with a smile and started preparing dinner. Without the attention of adults, she slowly walked to Shi Yi and shouted, Brother! Shi Yi put down the game console in his hand, and when he stood up, he rubbed her head again, Go to my room and get a present. There is a thick book in the center of the clean desk. The dark blue cover is particularly prominent. Yu Ziyi glanced at the person beside him curiously. Shi Yi pointed to the book and motioned her to pick it up. The golden font Book of Answers on the cover. Brother, won't this be my gift? There is a little hope in my heart, don't let her read a book. She hates reading. Shi Yi raised his chin without denying it. Yu Ji wanted to cry without tears, can I not accept this gift? Shi Yi's eyelids twitched, and he could completely guess what this little fool was thinking at the moment. Open it and take a look. Under Shi Yi's instructions, Yu Ji turned the pages of the book obediently. Instructions for Book of Answers, clamp your hands in the book, close your eyes, concentrate on thinking about the problem, turn the pages of the book from back to front, and find the answers you need based on your own feelings. Hey! It seemed to be different from the book she had imagined. Do you want to try? Shi Yi asked her. But for a while, she didn't seem to think of any problems. Shi Yi said, just ask, when will the little fools become smart? Book of Answers, Yu Ziyi. Old heartbroken. She snatched the book back, clamped her hands, closed her eyes and asked, "I'm here to ask, has my brother's game been cleared?" Book of Answers, ha ha ha. Seeing this answer, the little girl suddenly felt balanced. But she knows that she is very smart and can pass every game, so the answer in this book is incorrect. She pointed to the book and said, "Brother, the content of this book has nothing to do with the problem." Seeing her proud expression, Shi brows and smiles, calmly replied, "It can't tell you the correct answer, but it can help you find the correct answer. When you open this book, the answer subconsciously wants to see is your inner choice." Yu Ziyi went home with a gift to make room for this magical book. Just put it on, and then pulled it out. She put her hands together and read a question silently. The answer given in Book of Answers is, at 8 o'clock in the evening, my grandmother made another phone call, concerned about her sister's situation, and my parents said they were going home soon. After 9 o'clock in the evening, Yu Ziyi was a little sleepy, still guarding the door. One by one, "You go to bed first." She stubbornly shook her head, "I want to wait for mom and dad, and my sister. I don't know if my sister's illness is better, what kind of gifts and cakes my parents brought back to her." At 9:30, Yu Kai and Ruan Qing finally came back with their little daughter, some plastic bags in their hands. Grandma greeted her and cared about her granddaughter. "Is Yanyan okay?" "It's okay. I took the medicine prescribed by the doctor and fell asleep on the way back." Yu Ziyi is not the kind of talkative child. Hearing that her mother had already answered sister is okay, she didn't ask about her sister's situation again. She moved her eyes to the bag brought back by her parents. They were all relatively flat. "My pocket can't hold a cake." Ruan Qing put things on the table casually, and Yu Kai carried her little daughter to their room. Everyone followed in because of their concern. She saw her father put her sister on the bed, and her mother would carefully twist the quilt for her sister. Afraid of waking up my sister, they all went outside to talk. Grandma asked about the child's illness. Ruan Qing explained, "When I went shopping in the city today, Yanyan saw the delicacies and clamored to eat. As a result, she broke her stomach and caught the cold because she was not used to the weather here. It was only when I went to the hospital to find out that it was acute gastroenteritis, which scared us." "Then what about the cakes and gifts you bought one by one?" "I didn't have time, there were only these dishes. I thought I would buy it later, but I didn't expect it would take so long." Grandma knew that Yu Ji had waited all day and hardly dared to see the child's disappointed look. Ruan Qing glanced at the time and reminded, "Why haven't you slept yet? It's almost 10 o'clock. Go back to the house and go to bed. It's not good for the kids to sleep late." What Ruan Qing blurted out was also about caring for the child. But they didn't know what she really wanted. Yu Ji held back his tears and ran back to his room. She was sad and a little angry, but she didn't know who to blame. To be precise, she didn't seem to blame anyone. Mom and Dad forget their promises to her because their sister was sick, but why, it was this time. For her birthday accompanied by her parents, she looked forward to it for 7 full years, and finally waited for an empty joy. The author has something to say, don't panic, there is a brother for everything. By the way, guess what questions were asked after going home one by one while holding the book? After dinner, Yi kept his head out of the window from time to time, wanting to see if the yard opposite had become bustling for birthday celebrations. But the reality seems very deserted. He stood at the window and thought for a while, took 100 yuan from the wallet in the drawer and put it into his pocket. "Mom, I'll go out. It's dark." "Where to go?" "Just go shopping, not far. Then you take Mom's cell phone and call home if you have something to do." Row. They were in town. Many shops were closed at 8 o'clock in winter, but he still wanted to try it. Shi ran around the town and finally found a cake shop that was about to close. "Boss, are there any cakes now?" "My kid, you are late, we have already planned to close the door." He saw the boss put away the cake in bulk, and he was indeed about to close the door. "Boss, my sister is celebrating her birthday today, can you make another cake?" "Hey, it's so late." "Boss, her birthday is only once a year. She really likes cakes, so you can help make one. Small cakes are fine too, please." He handed the 100 yuan to the boss, without giving up. The boss is a kind and soft-hearted person. Seeing the little boy came to buy a birthday cake for his sister on this cold winter night, his heart was shaken, so he agreed. "It's just that the tools have been put away, and it will take time to make another cake. I guess it will take more than an hour, can you wait?" "Yes." He called his mother at home to explain his situation. Ning Suya heard him run to the cake shop in the dark to buy cakes for Yu Ziyi, and she didn't know whether to be angry or relieved. Obviously he was still a child, and he always looked like his elder brother in front of Yu Ziyi. But she just thought about it in her heart, and didn't stop her son's decision. "Then tell your mother when you buy the cake, and then mother will come and pick you up." Shi Yi agreed readily. In a hurry, the boss made a small 6-inch cake, covered it with cream, decorated with flowers, and said happy birthday. "Children, the cake is ready." "Thank you, boss." The boss didn't cheat his money, so he charged the fee at the usual price and gave him the change. When Ning Suya came to pick up the people, she saw her son sitting in the store waiting with the cake, and the two thanked the kind boss before leaving. Outside the yard, Shi Yi said, "Mom, I'm going to give the cake to one by one." Ning Suya thought for a while. This is a friendship between two children. She doesn't mix up. Come back early. "Thank you, Mom." He is very glad that he has a good understanding mother. Not long after the Yu family came back, the younger daughter fell asleep and the eldest daughter entered the room. Suddenly seeing a little boy appear at the door of the house, Ruanqing remembered that this was the boy from the Shi family. Shi Yi stood at the door holding the cake and greeted them, "Grandma, hello, uncle and aunt, I'm here to find one by one." Grandma knew that Shi Yi always took care of her granddaughter, and she liked him very much, so she immediately brought people in. "It's so late, what are you looking for?" "I forgot the gifts I gave one by one. I'll give them to her." He didn't directly state that it was a cake. Grandma knew it well and pointed to Yu Ziyi's room and said, "I just went in one by one, and I must have not slept yet." Looking at it, Ruanqing felt a little wrong, and she pulled her grandmother and whispered, "Mom, how can you just let the boys into the bedrooms one by one?" In her opinion, men and women are different, and the two children are 11 years old, and they should understand the boundaries. Grandma gave her daughter a white look. "You said that others, you didn't see what Xiao I was holding just now? That's a cake. 9-year-old kids are more caring than you." Yu Ji lay down on the table, enduring sobbing with sobs. She didn't dare to get angry, and felt that she should be sensible and considerate when she is so old. "It's just that I can't control my emotions, and there are some jealous sisters who can live with their parents and act like a baby." Tuk tuk, there was a knock on the door. She quickly wiped away her tears and ran to the door to open a gap. "Who is it?" Sure that the little girl was not asleep, Shi Yi opened the door boldly and walked in. The little girl hiding at the door was pulled out by him. "Brother!" Yu Ji looked at him in surprise. He pushed the door shut, and followed the light above his head to see the white face in front of him. Lifting her chin with her fingers, she took a closer look, and there were still traces of wiped tears remaining in the corners of her eyes. Cried. She put aside her face guiltily. Shi Yi probably guessed the reason. He casually occupied Yu Ziyi's stool, leaned his back against the table, and hid the gifts he had brought behind him. Why cry? He doesn't want the little girl to hide her grievances in her heart. Anything may cause inertia. If she holds back once, there may be a next time. If it accumulates all the year round, it will be bad. Yu Ji moved to him gently, and asked in a low voice, "Brother, why are you here? Don't want to see me?" "No. Then I want to see me." Is there something wrong with this logic? But she was unable to refute. One by one, you haven't answered my question yet. He fixedly looked at her with a deep expression like an adult. Don't want to say. In the face of Yu Ziyi's silence, he continued to pursue verbal pursuits. Very well, Yi now grows up, and I don't share any secrets with my brother. He sighed deeply, intending to stand up. Seeing his disappointed expression, Yu Ji suddenly pressed his hand in a panic. It's not a secret. It's because my sister is sick. Mom and Dad forgot to buy me gifts and cakes. I feel a little sad. I know they didn't do it on purpose, but I was a little angry, feeling very ignorant. Sure enough, the reason was not much different from what he had guessed. Parents who have been wronged because one child has not fulfilled their promise to another child can't even get angry for fear of being accused of being ignorant, so cautious. How can they be happy? One by one, they are your parents. If you feel unhappy, you can tell them directly. My parents finally came back once, and my sister is sick. I am a big sister, and I should be considerate of them. It's rare to see my parents and I don't want them to think that they are ignorant. Shi Yi has fully understood her thoughts, but, everyone comes to this world for the first time. There is no stipulation on who must be humble. You are willing to be nice to your sister. That is your own will. And you want to be. It's not wrong to get gifts and blessings on your birthday. As long as you are not doing bad things, you don't have to be cautious about others' opinions. Yu Ji slowly lowered his head and muttered in a low voice, I'm just a little sad. Don't be sad, I brought you a present. Hey? But I have already received the gift. He laughed silently and picked up the cake hidden behind. Yu Ji's eyes light up instantly. It's a cake. Of course, I promise to let you have a birthday cake every year. I will never break my promise. Thank you, brother. She hugged Shi tightly, and the emotion and joy in her heart could not be hidden. Shhh, we lighted candles quietly. This is a birthday cake for 11. He deliberately lowered his voice. Yu Ziyi was infected by the atmosphere and nodded excitedly. At the moment the candle was lit, the wound in my heart was instantly healed. She closed her eyes and made a wish. He lowered his head and watched gently, bright sparks jumping in his pupils. From the window, the two figures reflected in the house are leaning against each other. Book of Answers, can I have a cake this year? Book of Answers, Yu Ziyi's 11th birthday was a bit bumpy, but in the end she fell asleep in a sweet mood. In the dream, Mom and Dad took her hand and brought her into this world. She was looking forward to growing up, but by this time Mom and Dad had already let go of her hand. Mother is holding the other children, and Father is guarding them. She is left alone. Sadness, fear, loneliness, terrible emotions invaded her world. But when she was most confused and helpless, a handsome little brother appeared and never left. Xiao Yi, there is a call from the experimental middle school in the city. Your grades are excellent and you can directly report to the key class of the experimental middle school. In 9-year compulsory education, although elementary schools can be directly promoted to junior high schools, the admission scores of each school are different. The key classes of the experimental middle school brought together the best junior high school students in the city. That is the hope of many elementary school students and their parents. And Shi Yi can be directly recommended, which is something that many people can't envy. The teacher was proud to have nurtured such a smart child. He directly mentioned Shi Yi's name at the parent meeting, which attracted the envy of Ning Suya. Many people came to ask Ning Suya how to educate her children, etc. After 2 visits, the classmates also knew that Shi Yi was going to study in a key class in the city. Wow, I envy him so much, I'm sure I won't pass the exam. Xiaolazi sighed, and then poked at the same table. One by one, you will go directly to the middle school in town, right? We have similar grades, said maybe junior high school can be together. Yu Ji shook his head. When she heard that Shi Yi was sent to the key class of the experimental middle school, she panicked. People around her were talking about it. She was absent-minded all day, and she wandered away from school in the afternoon. Look at the road. Shi Yi led her school bag to prevent her from bumping. Yu Ji held back for a long time. Seeing that she was about to reach the door of her house, she finally couldn't help but ask, "Brother, are you really going to the key class of the experimental middle school?" "Maybe. Then we won't be able to go to school together in the future." Since she remembered, Shi Yi has been by her side, like a real brother. "It would be too sad if we were to separate. Let's do this, you behave like your brother, think about it." Yu Ji bowed his head and kicked the stone on the ground. She is a little stupid, but she also knows that going to school is very important, and this kind of thing can be changed by acting cute. Moreover, only a spoiled child is qualified to act like a baby. A soft voice fell into her ears, and Shi Yi's ear moved, pulling her ponytail so that she could not turn her head along. Looking back at that moment, she saw that the young man raised his mouth and smiled freely on his face. "Brother pet you. The author has something to say, Shi Yi, who wants to be your brother, The golden autumn of September is another year of school season. The teenager in blue and white short sleeves stood in front of the campus small shop, handed out the change, and gave the shop 2 bottles of normal temperature mineral water. He was born with a good appearance, only 12 years old, and his dazzling peach blossom eyes gradually gave birth to a charming light. One can imagine how charming he will be when he grows up. Some shy girls were actually a little shy when they saw him. Because their parents were nearby, no one took the initiative to get to know him. "How old is that boy? I haven't seen it, it should be a freshman. Otherwise, as a third-year junior high school students, they might not know such outstanding appearance. He doesn't have a parent by his side, and he still comes to a small shop to buy water. It doesn't feel like a new life. Let's go and see." 2 courageous and curious ones quietly followed. There are many people on the playground and it is not easy to be spotted. With a bottle of mineral water in each hand, Shi Yi walked toward the shade of the teaching building. He has been to this middle school twice, and he has already memorized the way of the school by heart. "Here." He unscrewed one of the bottles of water and handed it to the girl standing on the edge of the stairs. The girl held the mineral water bottle and drank 2 sips. "Brother, shall we go to see the division now?" "Okay." Yu Ziyi reported with Shi Yi that she was a little worried before coming, and wondered if she could be in the same class as Shi Yifen. After seeing the schedule, she was so happy that she was about to jump up. "Great! We are still in the same class, so lucky. This means that they can still be together for the next 3 years. Shi Yi looked at the placement table and rubbed his nose in a weird manner. He rejected the best experimental middle school in the city. The 2 middle schools in the town were vying to call his home. He made a request at that time. The same class is inevitable. Entering the class, a third of the people sat sparsely in the classroom. Shi Yi glanced at the classroom and said to her, "Pick one." This is for her to choose a position to sit first. Yu Ji turned his head, looked at Shi Yi's height again, and started walking back. The little girl who had been sitting in the first 3 rows in elementary school all the year round sat in the second to last row warmly. Shi Yi laughed at that time, "Sit here and look at other people's heads in class. Yu Ziyi. She just wants to be closer to her brother." Shi Yi picked up her empty little school bag and took the little girl to the 4th row, occupying 2 positions aggressively. Yu Ji hesitated and asked, "Brother, can you really sit here?" She always worried that Shi Yi would be transferred to the back row because of her height. "Let's talk about it then." Shi Yi didn't care. As soon as Yu Ji looked around, everyone in the class was not all unfamiliar, and many of them had even been promoted to elementary school with her, but they were not familiar with them. It was a bright spot where Shi Yi went. As soon as he sat down, someone came over to say hello. "It's really Shi Yi, I didn't expect us to be in the same class. When Shi Yi was in elementary school, it was a treasure held by all the teachers in the palm of his hand. He was never partial to subjects and won many honorary awards for the school. It is said that he has already completed the knowledge of junior high school and elementary school, and even knows the topics in high school. Someone once suggested that he skip a grade, but for some reason, he was willing to progress slowly one step at a time. Yu Ji lay on the table boredly, with two round eyes looking at the front door, hoping that the next person who walked in was an acquaintance. She watched one after another. Finally, she stood up directly. Qiao Qiao. She was so happy that she waved at Qiao Lazi. It turned out that they were really together again. Freshmen are looking forward to the strange life in junior high school because they can meet more colorful people here. Today is not the official start of school, everyone is in the classroom just waiting for new books to be released. The weather was drowsy. Yu Ji waited, pulling his eyelids, and fell asleep directly on the table. Qiao Lazi had just finished making friends with the stranger behind, and was about to call Yu Ziyi's name when she turned around, but was stopped by Shi Yi's sharp eyes. She raised her hand angrily, not daring to interrupt. September was still hot, and it didn't take long for the little girl's forehead and nose to be sweaty. The fan overhead was ineffective, so Shi Yi stacked the two registration notices together to create a cool breeze. He didn't have a whim, he insisted even if his hands were sore. People who are not familiar with them were stunned. I just heard the girl calling the boy brother. Are they brothers and sisters? That's great too. They thought that this was a good brother with a sister. However, Qiao Lazi, who has been shown for 6 years, put up an index finger and swayed, and answered mysteriously, "This is nothing, you will know in the future." Qiao Lazi didn't say that clearly. Everyone envied Yu Ziyi for having such a good brother and taking care of his sister with care and gentleness. Slowly they found out, what is the fan? After the formal start of school, the head teacher re-ranked them roughly according to their height. According to the height difference between Yu Ziyi and Shi, the two of them must not be suitable to sit in the same row. Fortunately, Shi and Qiao Lazi continued to be at the same table. "Hello classmates, I am your class teacher Yang Xiao, very happy." The class teacher wrote his name on the blackboard, and gave everyone a wave of spiritual chicken soup at the beginning of school. The head teacher checked the admission transcript in his hand, and asked the new classmates, "I want to temporarily select a few class committee cadres. Does anyone recommend themselves?" Some people are shy in the face of an unfamiliar environment, others feel at ease in a new environment. 2 or 3 people are eager to try, but when they see Shi they raise their hands without hesitation. He is so confident. That's not it, they are the people who want to enroll in the experimental middle school. Then why did he come to our class? I don't know. Shi primary school was the class leader for 3 years, and his grades were good. His election as class leader was almost a solid matter. But at this moment, another girl raised her hand. "I also want to run for monitor. This is our school's bully, Cheng Qingyu." The promoted students from 2 different elementary schools were running for the position of monitor. The teacher asked them to deal with affairs fairly and waited 2 weeks to select the monitor by voting. Cheng Qingyu was full of energy and invited the classmates to drink drinks as soon as school started. Shi Yi, a basketball game mixed with most of the boys in the class as brothers. Girls of this age have little resistance to boys who are handsome, good grades, and able to play basketball. When running for squad leader, Shi Yi won Cheng Qingyu by 5 votes. Shi Yi is the squad leader and Cheng Qingyu is the deputy squad leader. Everyone thought that Shi Yi would be a very serious and responsible monitor, but never expected squad leader. "I can't memorize this English text, so I wrote some hints to myself." The classmate looked at the book full of hints and asked tentatively, "Can I recite the tips?" "Can." "Squad leader, borrow your math homework. Take it." Class leader Shi Yi is so reasonable and his classmates are full of praise for him. Deputy squad leader Cheng Qingyu felt insulted. She held back for a long time, until one day she ran into Yuzi, who was punished by the teacher for copying because of his inability to dictate, and confessed to Shi. Some students did not pass the dictation in classical Chinese, and were punished by the teacher to copy 10 times, and Yuzi was among them. The teacher asked the monitor and deputy monitor to supervise and inspect. Cheng Qingye walked around the classroom with a serious face, urging them to copy quickly. But Shi raised his legs and sat lazily with his eyes closed behind him, not taking this seriously. Cheng Qingye thought, if this continues, the teacher will understand that she is the most suitable candidate for the monitor. So she was harsher. Some people are fast and scribbled, and it doesn't take long to copy 10 articles. Cheng Qingye walked around and found that Yu Ji hadn't turned the page for most of the day, thinking that she was lazy and procrastinating. Yu Ji, you should write quickly. People have to finish copying before you are halfway through. The classroom was very quiet at this time. She was named, and the young man leaning on the back row suddenly opened his eyes. Yu Ji turned over the 4 completed copies and apologized seriously, I'm sorry, I am slow to write, but I will write all 10. She writes very well since her early childhood, and she can't make mistakes in every stroke, so the speed is relatively slow. Even if it is copying, the font is as beautiful as calligraphy. Cheng Qingye stared at her handwriting and muttered, the writing is good-looking and useless. You have to copy it 10 times. You should hurry up. Yu Zi was about to answer something, when the pink water cup suddenly pressed against her desk. One arm crossed over and took the pen in her hand. Drink water, I'll help you write. Cheng Qingye stared at him incredulously. Shi Yi, you open the back door openly. The boy smiled softly and raised his stunning peach eyes. So what? Are you acting as a monitor for your own selfishness? Shi Yi couldn't deny it, really. The girl in the back row covered her face idiotly. God, the squad leader is too handsome. Xiaolazi turned her head with excitement to share fun with the girls in the back row. Do you know why Shi wants to be the monitor? The girl shook her head. Xiaolazi, of course it's because of 1 by 1. In the 3rd grade, the class leader deliberately stabbed her from memorizing texts 1 by 1. The next day Shi Yi went directly to the teacher to apply for the class leader. Later, he was the only one in our class. Squad leader. I will definitely report this to the teacher. Cheng Qingye was furious. Yu Zi wanted to explain, but was pressed by Shi Yi. He glanced at Cheng Qingye, you are free. Cheng Qingye left angrily. Shi Yi held the pen and moved the tip of the pen. The text on the paper was 90% similar to Yu Zi's handwriting, and he couldn't tell it from the naked eye. Yu Zi knew what Shi Yi's idea was, and muttered, Brother, you imitated my handwriting again. When you copy it 10 times at that snail speed, it will be dark. This has been spread in private. Everyone knows that Shi Yi loves sister Yu Zi very much. When school was about to end, the girl in the class next door stuffed a letter into Yu Zi's arms. Yu Zi, please forward this letter to your brother. Before she could refuse, the girl had run out of sight. Yu Zi hesitated while twisting the pink envelope. The author has something to say, ha ha ha, when my brother used power for personal gain, please remember the handwriting. In this article, I really want to write that Shi Yi will spoil them 1 by 1. Doesn't it look a bit plain? I'm a little worried that the plot is too warm and can't catch your heart. The weather near October was still a bit hot, and the girl sitting at the window doing homework was a little absent-minded. She quietly opened the slightly bulging textbook, and there was a pink letter in it. She is not stupid, such an obvious thing must be a love letter. This is the love letter that others entrusted her to hand over to Shi Yi. What makes her hesitant is whether to send it out. First, this is not a task she promised to complete, it was forced to her by others. Second, the school does not allow students of their age to fall in love. What if this letter affects Shi Yi? However, this is what people want to give Shi Yi after all. She struggled with herself for a long time, and finally went out in the afternoon and went to Shi's house. On the weekend, Ning Suya had a rest. Seeing that it was Yu Ziyi who was knocking on the door, she called her in. Is brother not at home? It seems to be an appointment with a friend to play basketball, and I should be back soon. Then I will wait for him. It just happens that I'm going out to buy vegetables. You will wait at home for a while. There are fruits and snacks on the table. Take whatever you want to eat. Ning Suya has always taken care of her, and she feels relieved to leave her at home. Yu Ji nodded again and again. Not long after Ning Suya went out, there was another rustling sound from the door, like a key being inserted into a keyhole. She ran over to the cat's eye and saw the person outside, suddenly playing with fun and hiding in the door. Shi Yi had just returned from the basketball court and was sweating. Hold the basketball in your arms, align the key with the keyhole, insert and unscrew it. He stepped straight into the door, and a strange color was swept away. Looking back, she looked at each other with the little girl standing behind the door with her hands raised up and ready to scare people. The little girl blinked, then blinked again. He moved backwards, returned to the door with a calm expression, waited for a while, and stepped in again. What just as he was about to step into the gate, a small head suddenly appeared next to him, and the little girl raised her hands in a fierce manner. Shi Yi leaned back in cooperation, his expression frightened, and even the basketball in his hand fell to the ground. He patted his chest, still muttering words, "Scare me to death." Yu Ji hurriedly ran to the door to pick up his basketball, the corners of his mouth rising deeper and deeper. "Brother, you can be an actor. Little conscience, who am I for? Still playing such a naive game." Seeing that there was sweat on his body, she diligently took a basin of clean water and brought it over, soaking the towel and wringing out most of the water before handing it to Shi Yi. Shi Yi grabbed the towel and wiped it twice at random. At this moment, Yu Ji once sat next to him, put his school bag on his knees, and slowly opened the zipper. After a quiet glance at Shi Yi, he finally took out the envelope and twisted it in his hand. "Someone asked me to forward a letter to you." "What letter?" "This." She handed the envelope half hidden in her school bag forward. "Do you want to see it?" The pink envelope itself has a deep meaning. He just glanced at it and said, "Throw it away." "Hey!" Yu Ji never expected such a result. "But you haven't read it yet. What if someone else leaves you with important words in it? If this matter is really important to the person, the other party will not arbitrarily trust someone to pass it on to me. On the contrary, there is nothing to see." Regardless of his age, in this matter, but it was very open. The age of 12 or 13 years old is ignorant of love, but it is undeniable that some precocious people will have a good impression of the opposite sex. If you don't respond, the other party will naturally get distracted. Just as there is no such thing, he is too lazy to have more involvement with those boring guys. In his opinion, the feelings generated at this time are very naive. Looking at the little girl in a daze, she poked her forehead with hatred for iron and steel. "And you, if you have time to send letters to others, why not do 2 more questions?" "I don't want to either, but the person stuffed me the letter and ran away. Don't give me these things again." "All right, I won't help them in the future." The little girl nodded obediently. Seeing her behaved and bullying, he couldn't help but want to laugh. He lay back like an uncle and pointed to the basin of waterway. "Go, pour the water." "Oh." The little girl stood up obediently, placed the envelope aside, and took the used water to the bathroom for him. Shi Yi sat up, picked up the letter with his fingers, and threw it into the trash can without hesitation. This was not the first time he saw such a thing, but the first time he took it from Yu Ji. When Ning Suyi returned home from grocery shopping, Yu Ziyi had already left. "Have you gone one by one? Why don't you keep her for dinner? She is going back to help grandma cook." "Yi Yi is really a good boy. It's right to be a good boy, but this kind of caring and sensible thing is because the parents are not around and they have to grow up by themselves." Ning Suya was about to fold the food, so she moved the trash can in the living room and opened it. The pink letter on the face was extremely conspicuous. At first glance, Ning Suya was not surprised. Although her son is still young, she has not seen this letter 10 times or 8 times. When she first discovered that her son had thrown his love letter into the trash can, she still had the thought of joking and asked him if there are many girls like him at school. Shi Yi refused to take up this topic. Later, she discovered that the letters thrown in the trash were still unopened, and she was even more surprised. Since you don't read these letters, why take them home? Is it to show them how popular they are in school? How did Shi Yi answer at the time? Throwing in the classroom will be seen by others. I will stay with me one by one after school. It is not convenient to throw it on the road. So I had to take it home and throw it away. Ning Suya. She can't treat her son as a teen-year-old. Then I thought about it. Before she went out to buy groceries, there was no such thing in the trash can. Only Yu Ji came here just now. I didn't have this when I left. This letter won't be. Wouldn't it be given by Yu Ziyi? She hurriedly knocked on Shi Yi's door. Xiao Yi, let me ask you something. Shi Yi, who was holding the game console, raised his head in confusion. What? Who sent the letter from the trash can? Do not know. Isn't it one by one? She was the only one here just now. Mom, what do you think? How could it be she sent it? That guy is stupid. If she knows to write a love letter, he will read the 2 words upside down. Ning Suya nodded. That said, if it was something that Yu Ji gave away, even if Shi Yi didn't like it, it wouldn't be unopened and thrown into the trash can. I know you are smart, but Mom still wants to remind you that the most important thing now is to study. I see. He raised his hand casually, indicating that he was not interested in those things. Yu Ziyi thought that the love letter was just an accident. He did not expect that she would encounter it several times in a long period of time in the future. She rejected those who could refuse, and those who couldn't, such as putting them directly on her desk instead of handing them in. She would still show them to Shi Yi after school. Shi Yi does not shy away from her now, and throwing love letters in front of her is not unheard of. Yu Ziyi, if you give me these things again. A warning of danger flashed across the boy's eyes. She shook her head repeatedly. I will never give it again. Guarantee. Just when she decided not to touch this matter again in the future, she didn't know where it came from that Yu Ziyi quietly threw away other people's letters. Everyone is sensitive to this kind of thing. Some people are afraid that their own minds will be discovered. Some people want to watch the excitement, and some unpleasant words come out in private. Yu Ziyi said he was wronged. At first I could bear it, until 1 or 2 classmates passed by her occasionally and asked, "Hey, I heard that the girl in the next class asked you to hand over the love letter. You just threw it away." I do not have. She explained that it wasn't the client who didn't care too much, just as a joke. Later, I couldn't listen anymore, covered my ears with sullen discomfort, and finally said what they were saying. They have to give it to me, and finally blamed me for not delivering it. These people are so annoying. Shi Yi laughed blankly. I thought you didn't care. Brother. She called out in a very heavy tone, her round eyes staring. He couldn't help but squeezed her slightly bulging cheek. You will be murderous at me. How can I? Okay, leave this to me to solve. Originally. Your own fault. Hey. He raised his brow. The little girl who was going to refute immediately raised her hand to surrender. I believe my brother will be able to solve it perfectly. Shi Yi moved quickly, not only solving her problems, but also a wake-up call to all the students. At the flag-raising ceremony on Monday, the grade director used euphemisms to express the elimination of premature love. As soon as the meeting started, everyone stopped for a while. Squad leader, did you make the math papers that the teacher arranged yesterday? Borrow it and copy it. Shi Yuxia was overpowered by others, and it became a habit for some people. Many people don't like to take homework. They always wait for the next day to come to school and copy the answers directly. This time, he still handed out the math papers generously. Yu Ji, who was sitting in the front row, looked behind him several times, and quietly grabbed Xiao Lazi's hand. Xiao, show me the answer later. Hey? You want to copy too? This is weird. Although Yu Ziyi's school grades are average, she will complete her homework carefully every time. Even if she encounters a problem that she does not know, Shi Yi will teach her to complete it. Yu Ji pulled out the paper with a guilty conscience. It turned out to be blank. I forgot to take it back yesterday, so I didn't have time to do it. Okay. The answer came over, not copying for nothing. The math class representative stood up and reminded everyone to hand in their homework. Everyone passed the papers one after another. The math class representative suddenly clutched his stomach and patted Shi Yi's hand anxiously. I'll go to the bathroom, and the monitor will help me keep it away. Yet. They are at the same table, there is nothing to say about that. On the papers handed in by some people, there is an obvious mistake to fill in the blanks. His gaze fell on the blank question, and Shi Yi's lips tickled. As soon as Yu Ji tried to copy the answer, he ran back to hand in the paper. He turned his head and looked up. Stop! Yu Ji had a chill on his back. He wouldn't be found out for the first time doing small things. You made the paper yourself? Yes. Row. Dare to lie to him, good job. The math class representative returned to the classroom and collected the papers. Just when he was about to send the papers to the office, Shi Yi pressed the papers. Wait a moment, I remembered that a question needs to be revised. The class representative had great trust in the monitor and pushed the paper over. Then you can find it yourself. Okay. He quickly turned out a certain test paper, blacked out the blank question, and rewritten the answer. The author has something to say. Believe me, Shi Yi is definitely a scheming boy, and all abnormal accidents may be pits he dug.